It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed, and great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. Just Sam and I for the next 45 minutes today, because there is plenty to talk about, as there is every day on the show, but in particular today. U.S. Open TV ratings plummet, and why fans deserve a refund. That's coming up a little later on. A little cleanup in aisle 4 that we will get to. Baseball, the night there. Oops, it happened again to the Dodgers. We will explain what that is. A lot of football that we want to do in the show today. We've got Week 1 NFL leftovers, because who doesn't love a good set of leftovers? Sam Yarnell. And before we get to the leftovers, we got to talk about what happened last night. What wrapped up Week 1 in the NFL. And that was the Vikings going into Soldier Field on Monday Night Football and coming from behind in the fourth quarter. Sounds familiar. Oh, wait, it happened on Sunday night too. The Vikings come from behind JJ McCarthy, and they beat the Bears at Soldier. I know that smile. You are so predictable that I know what that smile, that smirk, that smug look. There's somebody at home.
That game that we saw last night to Sunday Night Football is like comparing a $2 steak to Wagyu Prime.
No, it was a fourth quarter. It's a fourth quarter rally.
Nothing like Sunday Night Football.
But it was a fourth quarter rally, a first-time quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of great storylines that come out of this game. Obviously, JJ McCarthy is the one that a lot of people will be talking about. And I don't know if I've heard anybody say this today. But to me, I will tell you what is most startling. If you are a Bears fan and you are watching this game, first of all, I will eat crow. I said they should have played J.J. McCarthy more in the preseason. They didn't, and he still came out there in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, and played like gangbusters. That being said, what is most startling to me if I am a Bears fan is you had J.J. McCarthy starting NFL regular season game number 1. Now, granted, he got to sit and watch all of last year, and there is a value in that. There's an intrinsic value in that. But if I am a Bears fan, and I watch J.J. McCarthy go out there in game 1 of his NFL career and play the way he did in the fourth quarter, and sit there and think to myself, we've had Caleb Williams for an entire year, a year plus, and we haven't seen that kind of poise, that kind of pocket poise, that kind of determination in the fourth quarter, the ability to lead us back. I am incredibly worried. And you know me, I'm a Caleb Williams guy, and all the, the physical ability, and he could throw the ball a zillion miles an hour, which is another problem unto itself. If I am a Bears fan watching that last night, I am deeply worried, even after Week 1.
Yeah, so I guess I'm the Caleb Williams guy here, because what we're not going to do is come and react to this game and say that J.J. McCarthy's a better quarterback than Caleb Williams, because he went out there last night and showed you that he's not. Yeah, he's on a way better team, and he's still got a coach that's way better, even with Ben Johnson and the new regime in Chicago. But my gosh, J.J. McCarthy is not everything that he was cracked up to be. This guy didn't even throw for 150 yards in the game.
Shut up when it mattered.
The whole fourth quarter comeback. Not even being able to get to 150 yards. There is serious concern for me around J.J. McCarthy in the same way that there was around Justin Fields when he was young, right? Like, there has to be a lot around him for him to do anything. I think it's worth noting Chicago didn't have their best 3 defensive players in this game. I'm not worried about the Chicago Bears. There are silver linings here for the Chicago Bears. It's not great that Caleb Williams didn't get into the end zone with that run in the fourth quarter, but Kevin O'Connell's a top 3 coach in football. I mean, we need to recognize that for what it is. He coached his team to a victory last night. And yes, J.J. McCarthy managed the game when he needed to down the stretch, but he barely completed 50% of his passes. This was not some world-beating performance from the Minnesota quarterback. And oh, by the way,
I will not have it.
Pick 6 in this game.
And how he responded to that pick 6 is what is most impressive. He then comes back and leads the team to a victory. Now look, them running the football helped a lot. them being able to establish the run eventually in the second half obviously certainly helped to aid that. And the Bears are, a good defensive team. Both of these teams are obviously good defensively. But no, I will not have the JJ McCarthy slander on this show today. I will not have it because he showed up in the fourth. Remember, you could sit here and say, well, for the first 3 quarters, he didn't do anything. He didn't play the entire preseason, Sam. He didn't play a single minute of the preseason. I can't go crazy about him getting off to a sluggish start in this game. I can get excited. I can feel good. And look, yes, Kevin O'Connell is a big part of the reason why any quarterback on that team is going to be successful, from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold now to JJ McCarthy. I'm telling you, he's got it. He's got the goods. He's got a 22-year-old in that spot. Granted, it's the team he grew up rooting for. I get it. He has a familiarity with that stadium and having watched football games there. But the ability to bounce back after the pick six, when a lot of guys would go into the tank in that spot. We've seen guys older than him. We've seen guys more experienced than him that go into the tank after that spot. And what I saw from JJ McCarthy last night, I'm telling you, I know this is going to be viewed as a complete overreaction. Even Vikings fans last night, when I posted this on social media, were like, pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not pumping the brakes. I am all gas, no brakes on JJ McCarthy right now. And on Caleb Williams, real quick, I'll give you the last minute. Real quick on Caleb Williams. He has got to figure out how to not throw every pass 120 miles an hour. Seriously. He's got to understand there's finesse. I think he can play the position. I'm not giving up on Caleb Williams. I still saw some decision-making last night that was disconcerting to me. The third down play where he intentionally grounds the ball in that spot. They don't wind up getting any points on a drive where if they did, they might have been able to put the game away. I still see some things that are worrisome about Caleb Williams, Sam, but I'm not giving up on him yet.
Yeah, so I think, again, and I give so much credit to Kevin O'Connell, and what he has done with that Minnesota team is just incredible. But you look at the drive where they scored the game-winning touchdown. There were 2 passes by JJ McCarthy, right? You get down to crunch time, the drive where they ultimately give the Bears the ball back with the chance to score, and they're running the ball. Like, Kevin O'Connell is showing you he doesn't trust JJ McCarthy. So I'm going to ride with the head coach, and I'm going to say that I'm not all the way there on him yet.
It's his first game, so I don't have a problem with them running the football in that spot. Again, we've seen teams with experienced quarterbacks that run the ball 3 times in that spot and give the football back. So I'm not gonna lose my mind over that in game 1. If you're the Vikings, you're thrilled. You got to win. We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, the SportsWrap Panic Meter is ready to go. NFL Week 1 edition. Now, I will admit it is purely for entertainment purposes, because if you're panicking after Week 1, other than maybe the Dolphins, I mean, come on. Sam Yarnell, who doesn't love leftovers? I mean, we all love leftovers. I frequently, sometimes I have so many leftovers I don't even get to the leftovers. But that is not the case when it comes to the NFL on this show. And Tuesdays are all about leftovers. NFL style, Sam Yarnell. 3 games to talk about. Bengals Browns. We all wondered what version of the Bengals we would get in this week 1 of the NFL season. And if not for some shoddy kicking by the Cleveland Browns, we would have a Bengals team that was 0-1 again after week 1. Joe Burrow, 14 of 23 for 113 and a touchdown, but the Bengals still find a way. If you told me that would be the line on Joe Burrow in Cleveland on Sunday, I would have said, they're going to be 0-1 again. But they're not. They figure out a way to win despite just 46 yards on the ground and 113 yards passing from Joe Burrow. And the Browns figure out a way to lose a game again, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned the important part of this, Jason. If you're Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, this is a good week, right? No matter what, don't care what the stat sheet says, doesn't matter. The amount that this franchise has struggled in the first 2 weeks of the season over the last 3 years, you win a game in the first 2 weeks, and that makes it a good week. I don't care if Joe Burrow throws for 113 yards or 290. They got to win in one of the first 2 weeks of the seasons. That's a big deal for Cincinnati.
I agree. Some encouraging signs if you're the Browns. That defense showed up, and that defense is going to keep them in games, which is probably going to keep Joe Flacco in the starting role, because as long as they have chances to win games, they're going to pick up some wins with Flacco there. I don't go crazy about the 2 interceptions. They're untipped passes that his receivers should have caught in that game. Browns better run the ball a little bit better, though, if we're talking about them doing some things. And hey, if you're the Bengals, you only gave up 16 points with that defense. So congratulations on the Bengals getting a win. Brian Kelly and the Bengals, 2 teams that have troubles winning in week 1, they both get week 1 wins. Congratulations to them. All right, Sam, game number 2 in our leftovers, Bucs and Falcons. And I know everybody's going to talk about the aspect of the Bucs winning this game, as you should. It's all about, ultimately who gets the win, despite, what you see in some of these games. But I continue to be impressed with Michael Penix Jr., and I watch him. And I talked about this on social media a bit on Sunday. And I get that, he was drafted, 7th or something like that. But there were a lot of people kind of poo-pooing what Michael Penix was going to be at this level. And it is clear that the Falcons made the right decision in bringing this guy in. And everybody could second guess and wonder why they did it after signing Kirk Cousins to that monster deal. But the reality is they got their guy with Michael Penix. Now, I don't know if they'll ever surround him with the right talent or the right coaching or the combination of the two to make this thing a success, but they at least got the most important position on the field right with Michael Penix.
Yeah, so from a Tampa Bay perspective in this game, Emeka Egbuka, they got it right with him. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now. That guy is an absolute dog, just like he was at Ohio State. And I mean, the Ohio State wide receivers continue to translate in the NFL. That wide receiver room is going to be insane when Chris Godwin is healthy again. Yeah. On the Atlanta side, listen, the main takeaway is this. The Atlanta box score finally looks correct from a pass-catching perspective. It's finally Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London in that order. Maybe, finally, the Atlanta Falcons have figured out how to use all of the dynamic offense in all of the dynamic weapons in their offense. That's the only thing I can hope for.
Yeah, and Drake London, if he makes a catch late in that game in the end zone, I mean, you're talking about potentially a different result. Still, Buccaneers find the way to get the win. I just love Bijan Robinson in open space, man. Just get that guy into open space, let him cook, let him do his thing. Agree with you on that. Denver and Tennessee. Look, I am one of those people that is not as high on the Broncos, excuse me, as a lot of people are. I think there is going to be some regression this year. I think there's going to be some, to the mean a little bit when you talk about some of the close wins they had last year. I think the schedule works against them this year. They scraped by and beat Tennessee on Sunday. And I don't think it's going to be as easy for them as a lot of people believe. And if you are thinking that the Chiefs aren't going to win the AFC West, Sam, I don't even think it's the Broncos that I look at as the second best team.
I'll tell you this, and I know it's through week 1. This may be an overreaction on Tuesday, but Bo Nix is on fraud watch for me. He has very much cemented himself on fraud watch. I am going to be looking very closely at how Bo Nix handles this season. I think the end of last year could have been a complete ruse. I think that there's a chance that Bo Nix isn't half the quarterback we thought he was at the end of last season headed in to the playoffs. Listen, this Broncos offense, I won't sugarcoat it. They looked anemic during this game. This was a horrible looking offense, and they stat stuffed at the end, and I get that. There was a lot of running, and it makes RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins stand out a little bit more in the box score. This offense looked horrible throughout this game. Sean Payton's going to have to figure something out quick if he wants to maintain this job in Denver. And I know they're paying him all these bazillions of dollars. But I tell you what, if you mess up with that kind of offense after you putting all those eggs in the Bo Nix basket and he turns out to not be everything you promised, that seat's going to get real hot real quick. I'll tell you this, the Tennessee Titans defense is not one that we should shake a stick at. It is one that I will be respecting all season long. I think Cam Ward took strides in this game. There are going to be growing pains this year for Tennessee. Calvin Ridley had a couple of bad drops, which are uncharacteristic. I actually think the Titans could be better than people expect.
Yeah, 6 sacks. That's tough. You got, and some of those are you got to get rid of the football, and obviously some of that is in the pass protection game as well. I'll ask you something real quick in the final 40 seconds. I'll pop this one on you. Drake May or Bo Nix?
Man, you took like 1-2 on the fraud watch category after week 1 right now. Like probably Bo Nix because of the physical attributes. He's just a little bit more athletic than Drake May is. People keep pretending that Drake May is some arm wizard. Yeah, go back and look at the stats. He's not. I guess I'd have to go with Bo Nix. I don't think either of them get a second contract in the NFL.
Wow. That is a bold prediction.
A substantial one, right? Like they could bounce around as backups on the minimum, but...
Okay. We're breaking out the SportsWrap panic meter after week 1 in the NFL. Look to see who's on it next. Welcome back to the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, some baseball. Oops, it happened again to the Dodgers. You'll have to see what it was. Sam Yarnell. It is week number 1 in the NFL that is now in the books. And every Tuesday on the show, we will bust out this segment. We call it the SportsWrap Panic Meter. Oh, there it is in all its glory. The SportsWrap Panic Meter is here, Sam Yarnell. And if we're talking about panic, I am going to bring up 3 teams today. And on a scale of 1 to 5, you tell me where the panic meter is. For your consideration today, the first team on the panic meter is the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle's going to be out for at least a few weeks with a hamstring issue. Brock Purdy is potentially going to be out this week, which means Mac Jones could be your starting quarterback in week 2, Sam Yarnell. Where is the panic meter? Even though they got a win in week 1, where are you on the panic meter for the Niners, especially considering you have them winning the division and winning a lot of games and potentially being the number 1 seed in the NFC, Sam Yarnell?
And you ready for this? My panic meter? Low. I am not worried about the San Francisco 49ers. Wow. And here's why. Because, yeah, they have 2 injuries on offense, undoubtedly. Important players on offense. But if any team in the National Football League is built to plug and play better than anybody else, it's the San Francisco 49ers. They're a team that has a next man up more mentality more than anybody. And I'd also argue they have a quarterback more replaceable than any team at their level, right? Look at what Mac Jones did with the Jaguars last year when he was thrust into that starting role. I'm actually not panicked about the San Francisco 49ers. Mac Jones ran that offense well last year, Jacksonville. The defense was horrible, and that's not his fault. Mac Jones' job is to throw the ball. And I'll tell you what, in a Kyle Shanahan offense, I'm going to trust the guy. Call me crazy. I will. I think that this defense still speaks for itself. I think that Joey Bosa had an incredibly underrated game on Sunday, and I think there is real Defensive Player of the Year juice behind Joey Bosa this year. This is a defense that is one of, when healthy, which it is right now, talent-wise, a top 7 in football. So I'm not panicked about the 49ers. Their wins or their games aren't going to be the same that we're accustomed to seeing them. They're not going to be this score at will, stop the other team at will kind of thing. But I still believe they'll have enough success to maintain their heads above water in the NFC West.
You meant Nick Bosa, by the way. I just wanted to make sure people knew that.
I'm such a Bills fan. Yeah, Joey Bosa, definitely sack, a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, sack and 3 tackles for loss for Nick Bosa in that game. So 1 to 5, you put it at a 1?
Yeah.
I'll put it at a 4. If Mac Jones is your starting quarterback, you're in a world of trouble. And Kittle is so important to what they do. both from a blocking and from a pass catching standpoint. The one bright spot for the Niners is, if you were worried about Christian McCaffrey in week 1, almost 150 yards total for him in that game between rushing and receiving. So if there's one
he's
thing,
your new comeback player of the year favorite by a
is he
mile.
really?
He's plus 185 to win comeback player of the year after 1 week. I think he was 6-1 going into the season.
I'll put it at a 4 though. I'm worried about the Niners. And look, I'm not going 5. We're not going DEFCON 5 here. And they do have New Orleans this week. So if there was ever a week you could afford to be without Brock Purdy and George Kittle, this would be it. I will be interested to see how that sort of manifests itself, though, over the next few weeks without Kittle and how that offense sort of evolves. All right, we got to move quick since we spent a lot of time on that. Bucs. Can we do that again? Team number 2, the Dolphins, Sam Yarnell. Where are we on the panic meter for the Miami Dolphins?
So it's 1 through 5, right? Those are the number options.
Come on.
I'm going to go with 11 on this one. Turn it up to 11, Juice. I think Mike McDaniel may be gone by October at this rate. Listen, my weird overreaction in week 1 to this game is I still don't think the Colts are all that good. I think they're okay. I don't think they're all that good. The Dolphins are really just that bad. Like, they are that bad. And now, breaking news on Tuesday morning, Jason, there's a new accusation out against Tyreek Hill, so his hopes of being traded to a contender may be right out the window, along with any semblance of hope that Miami Dolphins fans had of their team being good this year.
Or they could have been enhanced, because if it's the Chiefs, we know they'll take anybody. So it might have just gotten better for him to wind up in Kansas City. By the way, don't poop. We're not letting you poop on the Colts. They have a lot of good skill position players. They are a good team defensively. And the one thing we know is, even if you want to call Daniel Jones average, you can win in this league with an average quarterback if you put a lot of skill players around him. That's all I'm going to say on the Colts. Look, this Dolphins team looked entirely unprepared. And that falls on the head coach in week 1. Okay, this team looked uninspired. McDaniels himself looked uninspired in the postgame, Sam, which was very disconcerting to me if I'm a Dolphins fan.
So
I didn't
normal.
see any.
So normal,
It is. But you know what? Normal's not working right now with this team. They could be the worst team in that division. They could wind up having the number 1 pick in the draft, and we could be talking about them having to draft a quarterback next year. It's insane what's going on in Miami right now with the Dolphins. Team number 3, the New York Giants. Reportedly, Brian Daboll went to ownership and said, "Hey, can we start Jackson Dart now? Can we say just screw the whole Russell Wilson experiment?" And ownership was like, "No, you stick with Russell Wilson." So you get Russell Wilson in week 2 for the Giants. I don't know if you'll get him in week 3, but you're going to get him in week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys in Big D on Sunday. The panic meter, real quick, Sam, on the Giants is...
I don't know what it is, but it gets lower every time they get closer to Jackson Dart and further from Russell Wilson. Once you stop starting Russ, I'm going to fall in love with this team. I like them now. I'm going to love them when Russell Wilson's not their quarterback.
I'll go with a 3 because you really weren't expecting a lot out of the Giants this year. If you're a Giants fan, I'll go with a 3, but I do think it is extremely worrisome that after week 1, we're already asking the questions of when you get rid of Russell Wilson in favor of Jackson Dart.
Hopeful, and the fact, not worrisome, hopeful.
And the fact that you're not letting the head coach make that decision when it's his ass that's on the line, that's also very worrisome to me. That the Maras are sort of putting him in a position to fail here, which means it's probably his last year as the head coach of this team. And probably the last year for Joe Schoen as the general manager. We're coming back with some baseball. That's the panic meter. All right, we're breaking down baseball in segment 4 on the show. This Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap coming up in 10 minutes. The ratings plummet for the U.S. Open on Sunday. God, I wonder why. And a lot of people deserve refunds. We'll explain why. Refund! Sam Yarnell, you didn't think we'd forget about baseball, did you? The night in baseball, it happened again to the Dodgers. At least this time they didn't lose. We didn't even get to this from last weekend because there was so much going on. The Dodgers losing in Baltimore to the Orioles after having a no-hitter in that game from Yamamoto, and then giving it up in the ninth and actually losing to the Orioles, who are actually playing really good baseball right now. 4-3 was the final in that game. And then it happened again last night, Sam, this time to the Rockies, this time with 2 outs again in the ninth. This time it was on a combined no-hit effort. What I think is more important, and the reason I bring this up, and we could make fun of the Dodgers not getting the no-hitter, Tyler Glasnow being that good, and I know it's the Rockies, I get it. They're playing out the string. They need Tyler Glasnow if this team's going to make another run at a World Series, Sam, and he was really good last night.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like everybody, and the Dodgers number 2, for those of you in the sports betting space, that Dodgers World Series number just keeps ticking up. It feels like they're just daring us to bet the Dodgers at this point, and I might just do it. I don't think that there's, like, even with all the crap that they've had to manage this year, is there a better team in baseball? Are you going to look at me and tell me there's a better team in baseball than the Los Angeles Dodgers? I would argue very strongly that you're wrong if you are.
The Brewers?
Because
really? You really would? You love the Brewers. You wouldn't even argue the Brewers?
But Jason, what do I say about the Brewers all the time? If they win the World Series, how are they going to do it? They're a team that's powered on rainbows and good vibes. And yes, that's great. And it's good for baseball, but it can only get you so far. And when you're running up against the Death Star in the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they're flying right at your home planet, which they are now if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, I'd be starting to shake. I think that, I don't know. It's so weird that this seems contrarian to say, but it feels like it's the Dodgers world and we're all just living in it and doing our fun little regular season win streaks and loss streaks while the Dodgers are just cruising their way. They even played that fun little game with the San Diego Padres where they were like, hey, want to be in contention for the division for a week? Yeah, that was fun.
It just snorted.
It just seems like the Dodgers are inevitable.
I you know what the Brewers kind of feel like? Do you remember during the NBA season, all I did was scream about, you got to take the Rockets seriously. Look at their record. Why are we not talking about the Rockets? And they got to the postseason, and we obviously saw what wound up happening. The Brewers kind of feel like that. And I know there's a different history with the Brewers because they get to the playoffs every year and succumb ultimately. But I kind of feel like the Brewers this year are this year's version of the Rockets, where they have this great regular season record, and then we get into the playoffs and realize, oh, they really weren't as good as we thought they were, even though they have a plus 171 run differential, even though they have more wins in baseball than anybody by a lot, and we're still not willing to take them seriously as contenders. And if we're talking about them, by the way, for the World Series right now, the Brew Crew, the third best odds after the Dodgers and Phillies. Dodgers right now at 4-1, the Phillies at plus 650, the Brewers at plus 750, followed by my Yankees at plus 800. Sam was gloating before we came on for the segment because the Mets missed the playoff number, keeps on going down after they went down to the Phillies last night, Sam.
They lost to Aaron Nola. Yeah, I'd cut the number by 200 too.
Fair enough. I'm trying to look at the World Series number, and I wanted to do part of the segment on this, so let's just do it. Where I might be able to get some value right now in the postseason numbers, or the World Series number. And as I'm looking at it, there's not. I mean, I guess it's the Astros at 14-1 is probably the best value out there on the board, Sam. Is there anybody better? Is there a better value out there than the Astros at 14-1?
For those of you in the New York Mets are automatically going to make the playoffs camp, the Mets at 15-1 ain't terrible. But yeah, you try to attack an American League team because they have a better shot at getting to the playoffs. Or getting to the World Series. I totally get that. I think the Astros are probably the answer unless you want to and this is where I'm a real sicko. I'd be looking to give me the Cleveland Guardians at 175-1 right now. Give me the share of the Texas Rangers at 55-1. Give me one of these teams that's just outside the wild card spot that's going to have to play consistent, good baseball to make the playoffs. That's a team that'll continue to play consistent, good baseball through the playoffs and hopefully get to a World Series. So if I'm taking a shot, give me a team out of contention right now or not in a wild card spot right now. Give me the Guardians or the Rangers.
I'd go halvesies with you on a Guardians Jason Page unit, by the way, which might be different than a Sam Yarnell unit. I'd go halvesies with you on a Guardians unit. I would do that. How much do you think? Do you know what a Jason Page unit is, by the way?
I don't think I want to, but I think that the Guardians, when you look at them, they're just a team that, the big questions for us came around the time of the suspension of Clase, and now they're so far removed from that and seemingly operating without it. And I know they went through the Lane Thomas injury, but Jose Ramirez has still been Mr. Consistent like he is every year for that team. I like the Cleveland Guardians.
It's not a crazy 100. Look, at 175 to 1. It's not crazy. I mean, it is the Indians. I mean, the Guardians. Oh, no! Quarter in the jar. There it is. Quarter in the jar. We're coming back. U.S. Open talk next. Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Had a couple of extra minutes to spare today on the show, and there were a couple of ways I thought about going with this. First, I was thinking, I really want to talk about Victor Wembanyama, but I'm going to save that. Because I think, and I haven't looked at his price for MVP, or the price on the Spurs to make the playoffs, and I want to do a little more research on it, but I think there's some opportunities in the Wemby Spurs market for this season. I want to take a look at that. So I was going to talk about that, and then I said, you know what? I want to talk about this because we only spent a couple minutes just recapping quickly in Odds and Ends yesterday, the U.S. Open, and not really giving it its due from an entire event standpoint, Sam Yarnell. So I wanted to bring it up today. The U.S. Open TV ratings haven't been released yet, but they are expected to be down. And why would they be down? Well, of course, because you went up against the juggernaut that is the NFL. And I can't for the life of me figure out, of all the decisions the USTA would ever make, why they, in conjunction with ESPN and ABC, would say, you know what, week one in the NFL, perhaps one of the best NFL week one slates ever, and we're going to put our biggest tennis rivalry, the guys that everybody wants to watch play each other, that people are paying thousands of dollars to go to the Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe Tennis Center, or whatever you want to call it, to go watch these two play. And we're going to put it up against the NFL on week one. Somebody should be hung from the gallows, metaphorically speaking, Sam Yarnell, for that decision, because I'm sure it heavily impacts what those TV numbers are going to look like. The USTA makes roughly $500 million a year, which is an insane number. For a sport that you would think is in trouble, right? Because who's watching tennis outside of the 4 Grand Slams and maybe the BNP Paribas and the tournament in Miami? Not a lot of people. I'm paying attention, but not a lot of people are watching. $500 million the USTA makes. So now I want to just posit something to the USTA, Sam. How about giving back refunds? How about giving back money to the people that got stuck outside that tennis stadium on Sunday, standing in lines, waiting to go through magnetometers or whatever the hell they put people through, because Donald Trump decided, I'm going to go to the U.S. Open. And not only am I going to get there, I'm going to get there late, which means all of you are going to get into the stadium late, which means a lot of you are going to miss the first set of this match between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, which Alcaraz went on to win in 4 sets. If I am the USTA, I am coming out today and saying, you know what? If you were stuck in that line, or just the hell with it, we're just giving refunds to everybody because we screwed up. We screwed this thing up from top to bottom in putting it on a Sunday up against the NFL and then putting it up with Donald Trump coming into the stadium, which is a whole other topic unto itself that I'm not going to talk about because I'll get myself in trouble with some of our affiliates. It's just mind-numbing to me how bad the USTA screwed up their final Grand Slam of the season, their final of the season, with Alcaraz and Sinner going at it. It's just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. So I actually didn't know that Trump went to the U.S. Open final. He went to the U.S. Open final instead of opening week in the NFL. Anyway,
he did.
Yeah. So the real problem with this, right, is that they went up against NFL Sunday. I mean, what are you doing? This is the U.S. Open. It's a tournament that's been around for a while, right? I say that because they referenced it in the original Men in Black movie. That's how I know. It's a tournament that's been around for a while. You'd think that in a $500 million corporation, you'd think that there was somebody, you'd think, with a six-figure salary, again, you'd think, who could figure out, hey, maybe we shouldn't make our biggest part of the tournament on the opening day of the biggest sport in the United States, that sport that also took a day of the week from the church. Like, that's who we're going to go up against. And they made a conscious decision.
So you couldn't even, you couldn't figure out a way to work the schedule so that you do the women's final Saturday afternoon and the men's final on Saturday night? Really? You couldn't figure out a way to do that?
Do it like Wimbledon. Do it in the morning on Sunday. It's not that hard. Like, there are so many reasons that do it a week earlier so then people can have Labor Day off the day after, and because the NFL takes the last week off before the season starts.
No, then they'd have to cancel some mean-nothing tournament in Wichita, Kansas.
ATP Cincinnati one week, which means you got to move up ATP DC one week, which are like the only two tournaments besides the BNP Paribas in the United States that anybody watches. So yeah, you got to affect two smaller cities than New York by having them move a non-marquee event by 1 week.
What are we doing?
I've never really engaged in the city planning or management aspect of society. I can't imagine that would be a huge ask, though. So this was just a ball drop in many aspects, aside from the president coming. I mean, I didn't even address that part. Don't need to. But, like, this was just a ball drop in so many aspects from having it on the same day that the NFL opened their season with a full slate.
And by the way, Harvey Levin, TMZ Sports, don't put up a big old billboard on your website saying people screaming, cheering for Donald Trump, when at best it was half booing, half cheering. I mean, at best it was that. Seriously, Harvey Levin, I know you gotta, nuzzle at the teat, but come on, let's do a little better than that. A little intellectual honesty. I'm not saying he got roundly booed, but let's not make it sound like it was a WWE style pop for him. Odds and ends are next. All right. Just about time to say goodbye on this Tuesday edition of the show. Before we go, a couple of reminders. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. It is a fantastic way to listen to the show. If you're unable to watch us Monday through Friday, maybe you're driving to work, you're on the treadmill, on a plane, on a train, in an automobile, sleeping in bed, in the shower, wherever, and you want to listen to this show, you could do so. Monday through Friday, make sure to check out the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast, all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere there's a podcast available, you will find this show. In addition to being on about 300 affiliates in the U.S. and Canada, you can watch this show every day on Spotify, but you can also watch it on our SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Why is that cool? You subscribe, you can watch the show there commercial-free Monday through Friday. You also get SportsWrap Shorts on our YouTube channel. Again, it's the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. SportsWrap Shorts up there every day. Sometimes clips from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. Make sure to go and subscribe. It is a great thing for us as well, so we appreciate it if you do so. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap, we give you odds and ends. Odds and ends. We often criticize officiating on this show, much to the chagrin of some of our friends in the officiating community. But when sports leagues get it right, or organizations get it right when it comes to punishing bad officiating, I think we need to call that out too, in a good way. There was a Big 12 officiating crew that has been reprimanded following a rules violation in Missouri's 42-31 win over Kansas on Saturday. Now, this was announced by the conference on Tuesday. So in the first quarter of this game, after Missouri scored its first touchdown, when Mizzou was flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct, Kansas blocked the extra point, and the ensuing kickoff apparently was illegal. The Big 12 officials there, they allowed a punt to occur on a free kick. This was a violation of the rules in the NCAA rulebook. That Big 12 officiating crew has been removed from its next scheduled assignment on Friday. I bring this up for this reason. Imagine if Major League Baseball had that kind of accountability. Imagine if Major League Baseball had any sort of accountability. We talked about this when we had Jabba Chamberlain on the show recently. Imagine if Major League Baseball, imagine if the NBA had this kind of accountability. If the NFL, how many penalties did you see this weekend where you're left scratching your head and the announcers go, huh? And looking at replays and replay officials looking at it and going, huh? I saw it in the Bears game last night a couple of times with the Vikings. Imagine if that kind of accountability was available to Major League sports. Big 12 setting a good example there as far as I'm concerned. Good job by them. Last but not least, LeBron James. And this is another one of those instances with sports and politics and international relations all sort of mixing together. Anybody who watches this show knows I'm a LeBron James fan. I think he's one of the top 2 players to ever play the game. And if he had won another title or two, it might have been the argument that he was the greatest ever. And who knows, maybe he wins another one somewhere along the line. But this is where I think sometimes athletes get themselves into trouble. And LeBron James, sometimes players say things off the cuff about a certain international issue or a political issue, and you get yourself into hot water. But LeBron James did something even a little more different than that. He went and wrote an op-ed in Chinese state media. Just think about that unto itself. Talking about basketball being a potential avenue for diplomacy with all these tensions between the U.S. and China that are taking place right now. He wrote it in Monday's edition of the People's Daily newspaper. Again, Chinese state media. He said, quote, "Basketball is not only a sport, but also a bridge that connects us." This as the NBA gets ready to have 2 NBA preseason games next month in Macau between the Suns and the Nets. As you have the U.S. and China obviously fighting and battling over tariffs. And these very difficult, fraught times that we live in politically, both on the home front and international. And again, we can get into all the different reasons why that takes place. It's not for this show to do. You can go watch my buddy Chuck Todd if you want to get that. But for LeBron James at 40 years old, we're not talking about 25-year-old LeBron or 30-year-old LeBron. For 40-year-old LeBron to not understand the significance of putting himself out there in Chinese state-run media, just think about that unto itself. Chinese state-run media. And trying to tout the virtues of sports and how it could bring the U.S. and China together on this front. It just reeks of tone deaf. When you understand that this is a China literally sitting on the doorstep of Taiwan with people wondering day to day, is this going to be the day that they go and invade Taiwan? A country that censors what its people can see. Let alone all the political stuff with the intellectual property theft and all of that stuff. That LeBron just goes in there and says, hey, you know what? Chinese state-run media, I got you. I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you a bit of a gift. I'm going to give you me, LeBron James, as one of the biggest brands in sports, to Chinese state-run media. It just reeks of being tone deaf. It's going to do it for us. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to you for watching. We'll be back here on Wednesday for an all-new Sports Wrap. See you then.